Hey everyone, and welcome to the Unmodern Podcast, the podcast where we have unscripted, unapologetic, and uncomfortable conversations that affects everyday people. If you've ever had an outlook, thought, or an opinion that modern day society told you to be silent on, that you would get in trouble for, or if you've ever heard the words, probably shouldn't say that, then this is the podcast for you. My name is Alfred, a husband, father, and an adventure-seeking kind of guy who over the years has learned to have a positive outlook on life, regardless of what society throws at me. So if you're ready to listen, let's go. Trev, welcome to the Unmodern Podcast, dude. This has been one that is long overdue, and I'm so stoked to have you and your family here today and you sitting in the hot seat. It's going to be a good one.
Well, I'm excited to be here, Alfred. It's something we've been planning for quite some time. We're both working parents. We got busy families. So unless you set a hard date for things, they don't come. So I'm glad we set this hard date and we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
I'm excited to answer anything and just be free to talk.
Yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be more of a fireside chat episode for me and for you, obviously. There's really no structure to this. We just finished basically a podcast episode worthy conversation in my kitchen after dinner, which was incredible, by the way. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you for bringing the family over, which was awesome. But yeah, we started talking about everything. But just right off the bat, I just want to just show my admiration for you because like we started working together. We worked for the same company for a long time, but we worked together in the same department for a bit and no longer the case. But you came in as this, physically fit, rooted guy, quiet, hard worker, really the masculine, manly traits that people look for in mentors and friends and even coworkers, truthfully. And yeah, you exude that. So I just want to commend you, dude, because I appreciate that. And I've been looking in small iterations when we commuted back and forth to work about waking up at 3 a.m. and working out and strict with your diet and saying no when it would be so easy to say yes to things. That takes a lot of gumption and it needs to be acknowledged and publicly and openly because truthfully, it's not easy.
That's something I do for myself. It's something I don't do for acknowledgement, to be recognized. It's something that keeps me grounded, and we all need that. We're so busy with our work-life balance, with paying bills, keeping our kids active, pleasing your wife. You need some alone time. And that's my alone time is my 3 a.m. get up and get my day in. It's kind of like me having 10 cups of coffee before I start my day. Some people will need their coffee. That is my energy fix. It keeps me motivated. Yeah, it's something you definitely need support from your family, from your wife. And to me, family is number one. Like if you have an open communication with your wife, there's no boundaries to a happy marriage. And my wife and I have been married just celebrated our 13th wedding anniversary.
Congrats, man.
And I can truly say we have never been in a heated argument. We've never gone to bed mad at one another. Alfred, Christine, you've met her. She's a powerful woman. She's a quiet woman, but she has taught me so much. Just a conversation like Alfred, like you were saying before we came up here to do this. I wish more people were involved in that. Mm-hmm. Just to sit back and listen. And just sometimes you don't have to say much, but just to kind of hear that conversation, how open it is. And you're not being judged. Everyone's giving their opinion on things. We laugh and we're talking about serious issues. And it's just something that I wished everybody had that. And that's something that we have started something in our home where we're inviting that culture. Our kids are seeing it. We're having more people over just to have these conversations. And we're a Christian family. Christianity sometimes has a bad name. We don't like to say we go to a church. We are the church. You bring the truth and what you really feel, like your purpose in life. You need to share that, not just with a group of people in a isolated building. You need to bring that wherever you go. So it's just something that keeps me going. Like you motivate me talking, like you're going on these hikes, these adventures that you're challenging yourself. And that's, something I give props to you, man. Cause I don't know if I could do that. Right. So I've always admired you. I told Christine, I said, Alfred is somebody who you can't persuade him. That's one of the key everybody should have that value that you stand your ground. You're not going to be persuaded by anything unless you kind of analyze it yourself and say, well, is that the truth? You know what I mean? There's so much deception right now, I feel, and COVID is a perfect example. We can talk about it. COVID is gone. Is it gone? Is it going to come back? 100% they're going to try. Right now, it feels like we're a bunch of puppets, but the culture needs to change. And you said it perfectly. You took the words out of my mouth. It's going to change. You got to clean your house up first. You got to start within yourself. And when you change yourself, it shows, but you really got to be rooted in what you believe in and stick to it. Listen to people's opinions, have open conversations. Open conversations are what are going to, I believe, change kind of the mess we've created. Some of the stuff that I don't agree with right now, I take responsibility for it because it's happened within the last 10 years. It's been such a culture change from 10 years ago to now. Like, what is it going to be 20 years from now? What are your thoughts on that? From what you see today to 10 years ago in the workplace, we were talking about work ethics, into schools, into families, marriages. It's a different world we live in right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. First, I want to say thank you for the kind words. That was awesome. And yes, I have met your wife. She's incredible. You guys, she just prayed over me for a hike and wishing me safe travels. And not only that, but wishing that I find what I'm looking for doing something like this. Because I think conventional wisdom would ask the question, why would somebody feel the need to do this? Hike to the top of a cabin. It's the most isolated cabin, I believe, in the United States. I don't have an answer for it, to be honest. I like, she was asking me that, or she was praying for me, saying, I hope Alfred finds what he's looking for. I don't know what I'm looking for, to be truthfully honest. I want to thank you for your authenticity as well, both you and your wife. I think we've probably had dinner together about 5 or 6 times now. And I can't think of a time when the conversation wasn't something that sits with me until our next one. I actually reflect on it and I remember the conversation vividly. I remember what your wife said. I remember your response. I remember how it was thought provoking for me and my wife. It's incredible. And
I love it.
I agree with you. I don't think that happens enough in society. And not only in society, I don't think it happens enough within friendship circles and even family circles. And I'll go back to, you asked me, what are my thoughts? I would say for me, I think we, in the last, for longer than a decade, but we can isolate it to the last decade, eliminating COVID because that was a unique circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've prioritized feeling good over doing what's right or saying what's right.
100%.
It is, we've skated around telling a man or a woman that they made a mistake and holding them accountable. And you use that word accountability. We soften the blow. But the problem is we do that. It probably started off with us just, making sure that the emotions don't get out of control. We made sure that somebody didn't run away or somebody didn't do something they were going to regret. But that softening the blow stage lengthened more and more and more. And now it's actually become more of the rule than the exception to the rule, to almost intentionally lie to a person, and they know you're lying to them. If I come to you and I made a grave mistake and I say I murdered somebody or I cheated on my wife or I went to work on drugs, you would look at me and say, oh man, I hope you're doing good. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's a massive deal. It's a huge fucking deal. And it needs to be called out and nipped in the butt, because the moment my strongest confidants condone what I do, and if it's a person that I look up to and admire in certain situations, I'm going to keep doing it to either win their attention or, well, he told me that he liked it. Flip that onto the female spectrum. Honey, do I look fat in this dress? That's a great conversation. And actually, Tom Bilyeu, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, he had a great argument on his podcast where people said, if your wife looks ugly in a dress, do you tell her? And he said, you absolutely tell her. Why do you tell her? Because when you're 80 and she's old and wrinkly and you have grandkids and great grandkids, and you look at her and you tell her you are the most beautiful woman I've ever been attracted to in my life, she will believe you.
Yeah.
Because if you skate around the truth for 20, 30, 40, 50 years of marriage, nothing that is said in the end, if they're actually genuinely looking for your actual response, will mean anything.
And it's funny you're talking about this, because women are they're unique, they're lovely, they're made different than a man. There's times us as men, we need to humble ourselves and we need to say, you look good today. But I always tell my wife, she says, you never compliment me. You don't compliment me enough. And I said, well, if it looks bad on you, I'll tell you what looks bad. But it's the way men in general, I believe we've become soft. And I'm going to say it, we've become soft. Women are strong. Children are strong. So Alfred was talking about, you were talking about going on your hike and why you're doing it. And kids will ask the most obvious, to the point, no small talk questions. My daughter Tia said, "So why are you doing it, Alfred?" That's like, well, how do you respond?
Yeah.
Right. So it's just,
But I didn't lie to her. I told her, I truthfully, I don't know.
yeah.
And then when she's asked, what made you want to go on this hike? Well, how I first discovered it, what has attracted me to it since then, and then finally pulling the trigger. There's no lying. There's no scapegoating. I'm not trying to impress or trying to look good for you or your wife or in front of my wife. There's no ego involved. And, we can unpack that too, because I think ego has been the downfall of a lot of issues in society. It's really taken hold of truth, replaced common truth and objectivity, which is a huge issue because, again, it goes back to that. We prioritize people feeling good and not wanting to get offended or not wanting to acknowledge they made a mistake, or maybe even from a personal accountability perspective, it's hard for me to acknowledge maybe I've made a step backwards. Maybe I decided to make a job change and it's less money. I hate it. I'm more miserable. There's less progression. I made that decision. It's on me, right? I have to take that accountability. Whereas it would be like, well, my wife forced me into it, or it's a better work-life balance, when it truthfully isn't. And when you're out of integrity with yourself, when you lie about those things, you can't be in integrity with anybody else.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that goes back to that statement where I had mentioned with COVID and politics is you got to clean up your own house first. That starts with the individuality and accountability. If you're not rooted in your own integrity, I can't tell you who you should vote for. I can't tell you my opinion on a global pandemic and you take it serious. That's the difference. Is I can say it to you and you might be easily influenced, but I can't be stoic in my approach because I'm not rooted in myself. Right.
And you need to exactly clean up your house, and cleaning up your house involves with cleaning yourself up first. And we're human beings. We need people to fall back on. We need advice. We're going to stumble. We're going to fall. We need to get back up again. Can you do it by yourself? 100% you can, but you need people you can rely on to be there for honest advice, not sugarcoat it. But when you clean up yourself, truly want to talk about or express your feelings to others, it's time we have like neighbors become neighbors again. And they have open conversations. Like I'll go back to the kid example. Kids will fight. They will not talk to each other for a few minutes. The end of the day, they're friends again. They resolve it. And they resolve it because it's simple. They don't make it complicated. They say what they feel. And at the end of it, they accept one another because they truly, we're not all going to like each other. We're not going to agree with others, with your opinions, but there's something we can gain from one another. And I'm very defensive about certain things, but there is a soft side to me that my wife brings out in me that wants me to kind of, maybe that person doesn't know. Maybe this person has gone through some kind of trauma in their life and they've never expressed it. So you can give your opinion to anyone you want. Don't expect they're always going to receive it. But when you give a testimony, when you give something you personally experienced and you show the outcome of that experience you went through, not one person can argue with what you experienced. And if you're sincere to it, that's no one can take that away from you. No one can take away your beliefs, which I think people are trying to do now. They're trying to persuade our minds, but we need to be firm in what we believe in. We need to get back to family values. We need to clean up our house. I've been hearing that term so much now. And it's not just coming from within a group. It's coming from all different places. It's coming from people I wouldn't expect it at work. Like you're talking about cleaning up their house because deep down inside, people know we're in a messy situation right now. Debt is out of control. People are living above their means because we're trying to impress one another. Why? I just always throw the question out. Why do you need to feel that you need to be at a certain level when at the end of the day, you're happy where you're at? The progression you're making, no one can tell you how fast or where you need to be in life. That's for each person needs to dig deep inside your soul. And that's something like you're going on. I really think I'm excited for you. When Christine was praying over Alfred, it was powerful.
There was a palpable aura in the room, truthfully.
It's not just a physical adventure going on. It's also mental. I believe mentally, it's going to be the mental part of it's going to be the greater reward than the physical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no kudos to you. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to see your experiences and just kind of where your headspace is when you come back from that. So maybe that's something us men need to do. We need to get out into the wilderness again. We need to, this may sound old fashioned, but we need to become mountain men again. Let's go to the mountains. Let's go to where there's no social media, no cell phones, and let's just go and just, if we come back, if nothing's changed, so be it. If things have changed and if you're open to just experience it, with other individuals, I'm all for that. Yeah. I'm 100% all for that. And that's something I need to do too. Like it's a lot of the times it's easy for me to go to work. I'm around people. I want to go home. Like today I wanted to come. It's not like I promised Alfred I'm going to come over. I wanted to come because that's what actually fills my heart and our minds. So what's deep, what's rooted in our hearts, it's diluted when it gets to our minds. So our minds get a hold of what our hearts are thinking and it twists it, it takes it away. You start doubting yourself, you start questioning yourself. But when you truly speak what's on your heart, at the end of the day, it's like you won the lottery. It's like you won a sports competition. It's going to feel something. It's going to take your heart and it's just going to just make it stronger. And it's going to make you a different person. I'm not saying to you or to anyone else, you need to change who you are. I just want truthful, honest people. And I want some of the rationale people are agreeing with right now. I just want that openness again. It's been taken away from us. We're not allowed to talk about it because we've allowed it. So I'm hoping for more of these podcasts to come. I'm hoping, I told Alfred, I said, no problem with what I say. You can post it. People can come question me. And that's what I want. I'm not going to have any conflict. I just want to have that open conversation about some of the things that are going on and just what makes you happy at the end of the day. I think we can all learn from that.
I love how this is going in all different directions. I'm going to try to bring a little structure to it and start posing some questions. And I also like to leave a little tidbits to people because we talk about this stuff because we're experienced men. We've lived lives. We've made mistakes. We've learned from them. We've burnt bridges. We've rebuilt them. We both agree, work ethic has really carried us a lot in our lives. And I think that's really the first thing is if you can just be a hard worker and don't look at I'm working harder than somebody else who's making more than me, or you look at the 17-year-old kids who are drop shipping on Instagram, driving Bentleys. If you ignore the noise and you just put your head down and you do a good job, even if it's something that you don't like to do, you just rise above it and understand that everything you touch, you leave a mark.
100%,
and your reputation as a man is everything. And I think your ability to foster community is really what it is for women. The first thing I want to dive into here is cleaning up your house, because this is something that there was a Navy SEAL speech by Admiral McRaven. You may have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he says the first step in changing the world is making your bed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I watched that about 7-8 years ago and it fucking changed my life.
Yeah.
No joke. It changed my life because truthfully what he said when you make your bed, it's the first task of the day. It's like you when you go to the gym at 3 a.m. It's like when you do your hardest thing of the day, the first part of the day, you can have a shitty day at work. You're like, man, it doesn't matter. I ran 15K this morning. This is nothing. And it's like with my cold plunges. When I can get into 0-degree water for 3 minutes in the morning and I go to work and everyone's like, oh, you're having a bad day. I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, it doesn't affect me. It builds this resilience in your mind and in your body. And I use this term a lot during our conversation over dinner today, stoicism. It's a concept I'm addicted to right now, truthfully, because it wasn't that long ago. I was an emotional person over everything. I was emotional with disagreements with my wife. I was emotional when my daughter wouldn't listen. I was emotional when work got out of hand. I was emotional with trying to start up a podcast. And I finally started realizing that, and it's not just this poof realization. It's through exposure of information. It's through people teaching. It's through reaching out to people that are better than me in facets of my life I want to become better in. I'm not going to go to somebody who works at McDonald's and ask them for fitness and nutrition information. And that's not a knock on people who work there. I'm just saying there's certain people that they have their niche. I'm going to talk about business to business people. I'm going to talk, about fitness to fitness people. The best man at my wedding, Kevin, I have massive admiration for him. While he had 3 kids under, I think 5 years old, he was building his dream home and he won twice, I think, in one weekend fitness competition.
Yeah, we've talked about him.
The guy's a monster. Yeah. He's insane. And he's the quietest guy ever. I think he posts on Instagram like once a year. And it goes back to what you were saying is when you do it for yourself And you don't have to take that gym selfie. You don't have to tell people you're going. You don't have to enter every draw online. You just do it for yourself. Your actions speak louder than words. And it goes to a Charlie Kirk quote that he was on the George Janko podcast, and he said something that hit me almost as hard as that Admiral McRaven statement about making your bed. As he said, self-control is more important than self-esteem. That's an exact quote. And at first, when he said it, I couldn't unravel the messaging, but then he unpacked it.
Yeah.
And he said, what you do speaks so much more and is so much more important than how you feel. And when you unpack that statement and apply it to your life and apply it to any time that you've made a mistake or any time that something maybe got out of control that you weren't really, maybe you questioned in the beginning, but then when you look back, hindsight, you're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. If somebody tells me they go to the gym and they say it feels good, that's fantastic. But if in 6 months I see them and they're absolutely jacked, they don't need to talk to me.
Yeah.
Your actions speak louder than words. And that's a modern way of saying that. It is self-control is more important than self-esteem.
You're giving me goosebumps right now because like your actions will show naturally. Make your own bed, you lay on it. Listen to quotes, like you were mentioning quotes. Do some research. If you're feeling lost right now, start looking some podcasts, pick up some books, get a personal quote for your life, for that year, for that day, and stick to it. Like a simple few words etched in your memory will go a long way. I love quotes. I live by quotes. I'll refer back to quotes I read in the Bible. I'll go back to something my wife said. She quoted me. I'll go back to, something my dad said, a quote, but pick things that apply to you, how it affects you in your day-to-day life. And it's going to go a long way. You don't have to brag. You don't have to try to one up one another. Your actions will show through the work you do. And at the end of the day, that's all of course, it's nice to be acknowledged, but you got to acknowledge yourself first.
I think that's the unique thing about men. We are better at acknowledging each other than women. But I think the problem is men's circles and friendship circles and true forms of masculine accountability that are separated from the house and separated from femininity and separated from state. It's fucking abolished. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
It's demonized. All you hear today is patriarchy, toxic masculinity, the system, that's created to destroy men in divorce. And you have women saying, well, I'm just playing by the rules. And it's like, you can't tell me that if, so-and-so cheats on somebody else, or you have an amicable breakup, or even if it's not an amicable breakup, you're telling me that one person has to suffer more than the other. And 85% of the time it's men. That's crazy in my eyes. And the problem is that's a microcosm of a system that takes pure masculinity at its truest form and destroys it, because now you're eliminating incentive to reach a new level. And I think the only way to do that as men is, like, for instance, this hike, I'm going on it with, 3 other dudes. If I was going on it with a woman, I don't think it would mean the same. And this is not a knock on women. I know somebody's going to fucking clip this or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's an experience. There's something to be said, because the thing is by getting to the top of the mountain, we all had to exert similar physicality. We all had to experience similar danger. It's an equalizer. It doesn't matter who's rich, who's poor, what vehicle you drove. It doesn't matter your history, your experience. It doesn't matter, your trauma. Are you married, divorced, kids, not? It's irrelevant. It's an equalizer. You go through something so difficult and mentally you even question the validity of why you do it. But then when you accomplish it, it's a euphoric feeling. And it's a bonding experience. And that, I think, is likely what's going to occur after this. And I'm using that as an example because it's something happening here soon. But I think those sorts of things are now gone. Like for instance, like men, like, oh, I'm going to the gym with my gym bros, or I'm having a boys' weekend.
Yeah.
It's like now it gets made fun of. It's trending on Twitter of like, why don't girls get girls' weekends? And stuff. We're phrasing it in a way that makes sense for us. And to try to not acknowledge the dichotomy of men and women and how that has to exist for society to function, truthfully, I don't understand it. And it's something that we have to combat, but we have to combat it as men, not as a man. Well, what I mean by that is in a group, not individually.
So right now, 100% agree. Society is trying to tell us, men, when I say us, I'm going to refer to a man right now. It's not okay to be masculine. You know, are you really masculine? They start playing with your head, and it's good for men to spend time with men. There was a one quote I can't. We're talking about society and debt and how people try to do better than one another. There was a podcast I was watching about two brothers. So if you look at different countries, say India for an example, you'll get multiple families, brothers living together in one house. They're living together. The men are accumulating all these assets, and they're debt free. They may have minimum paying jobs, but they're living in nice homes or driving nice vehicles. It's because they're working together as men to provide for their family. I'm not saying we should all live together. We need to lean on one another. Men need to lean on men. Women need to lean on women because they understand each other. I'm a man. I got two girls at home and my wife. Do I understand women 100%? No, I don't. My girls are 12 and 10 years old. They're going to be going through puberty. Do you think I'm going to be talking to them about their monthly periods? No, I'm going to leave that to my wife because she understands what they're going through. When you're going through something, it's okay to be a man. I'm going to say being a masculine man is also humbling yourself to the point where you can reach out and say, hey, man, what's your honest advice? Some of the most powerful prayer warriors I've heard are men. I see men in front of churches, they cry. But after they're done crying, the fire comes out of them. And I'm telling you, it's something that I wish people would experience and just be open to it. I'm going to go talk a little bit about my mom growing up. And so I grew up in a Catholic family where everything was forced on me. I was forced to do this. I was forced to do that. I never had a personal relationship. I wasn't able to kind of explore, read the Bible, just kind of question, is there a God? That's the number one question nowadays. It's what causes war? It's resources, religion. And everyone has a right to their opinion. And if you look at certain evidence, if you do the research for yourself, and if you're open just to find out who you are and what your purpose is, everyone has a purpose. Every individual from the homeless to the most rich, they have a purpose in their life. And that's for them to find out what it is. And at the end of the day, it's all about what fills your cup and what keeps you in check and what keeps you motivated. Raising a family to me right now that's something that we're really trying to implement in our home is just open, honest communication and just letting our daughters without, of course, we're guiding them, we're protecting them, but we're letting them find out who they really are by asking questions. So, if I had one thing I could tell people, I would just say, if there's a question, don't hold it back, ask it. Because that's going to burn inside of you until it's released.
I'm glad you brought up Christianity because I've had a really tumultuous relationship with faith, religion, Jesus, all the above, non-denomination, third, twice removed, whatever you want to call it, all these different sects. A good buddy of mine, Ray Cowell, he was on my podcast and he had a statement on there, and this is a butchered quote, but he said, he's like, I'd make the argument that Jesus wasn't religious and he was murdered for it. And that sat with me because we did that at a time when I first started this podcast, and I was kind of wishy-washy, faith, religion, the difference, or I'm spiritual. I'm not faith driven, which if you look it up, spiritual literally means to have faith, but whatever. Mm-hmm. We can talk semantics later, whatever, or read a different dictionary. I don't care. But I love that idea going back to when we first started this, when you talk about purpose and you talk about doing it for yourself first. I think everything can be boiled down to an individual level, but you as an individual have to have something that you're aiming for. And I have yet to find something better than an entity like Jesus. I'll expand on that a little bit, where true individual and community followers of his word, not the words written by what he said, but his word. And that has to go to the original gospels, right? And that's it. Not not the Gutenberg Bible, not the West Baptist Church Bible, not all these other ones. You go to the original gospels and unpack it yourself. They're written in Greek. They've been translated into English many times, and I have yet to read them in length.
It took me until my adult years to actually read go through the whole Bible in depth. Growing up Catholic, there were certain portions that were segmented to me. Okay, you got to read this portion. You got to read this portion. For me, I truly believe Christine was guided to me for a certain purpose, because that woman, Alfred, you got to have her on your show one day, on your podcast, and for her to go through her testimony and the faith this woman's had, she's had, I'm telling you, it's something else. She's gone through cancer, surviving, back surgery, you name it. This woman's been in pain, but at the end of it all, she's been so faithful and she's never wavered. I've never met people probably say this about their wives, which they should, but I've never met a stronger woman than her. So love your wives, men, like cherish them. Then if you're not happy in your marriage, don't go cheat. Don't hurt them. Just end it. If it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. But young men, especially, I'm telling them, wait for that special someone to come along. And it's truly life-changing. It's, for me, a pivotal moment in my life is when we met. 100%. If somebody would have asked me 15 years ago, you can ask people in my prior days, marriage days, can you see Trevor ever being married with 2 daughters? No way. But I am. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't damage that relationship for anything. Like I would when people talk about dying for one another, I would truly lay my life on the line for my wife and my daughters. So just find out what your purpose is and do some research. Don't live day by day. People are going to wear themselves out. You're going to wear yourselves thin. We're only on this earth for a small period of time. So make it worthwhile. Like you and I talk. Do we really want to live in -40 weather? No, I don't. So what am I going to do about it? So that's something we're still contemplating as a family, Christine and I. But
yeah, I'm gonna hit you with one here.
Hit me one.
Yeah,
hit me.
This is a really good one. This kind of wrecked my brain a little bit because I probably listened to it on repeat about 12 times, to be quite honest. I follow this page. It's called it's very similar to my podcast. I think it's called the Unmodern Motivator. It's a really odd Instagram tag. There was this young girl on there, and I was reading. It was a very lengthy post, but it was a quick, like 8-second video. The video it was a mishmash of people saying YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah.
Life's short, do it. You know, what is it? You only live to be 100. And it was all about this, this reality that life is very short. And then it kind of went blurry and it went to her and she said, yeah, but eternity's longer. You better prepare for it. And she said that and she was holding it. And I'm just like, holy, I'm like, what a mental shift that is. Truthfully, when you think of it,
if you believe in the afterlife,
and so you have to preface that statement,
yes,
100%. But it got me thinking, where it's like when you phrase things, it's almost like when you are able to change your mindset from days to months, months to years, years to decades. It's one of those things where when you can start outlooking, and you do this in anything, your relationship, if you look further into the future about your relationship, you're going to work on it stronger.
Yeah.
If I ask you what's it going to be next week being married versus, how strong do you think your marriage is going to be in 10 years? And you start thinking of those things, but you keep asking yourself that, you're forced to take action to make that reality true.
Yeah.
So the same thing, like, oh, you've been going to the gym for a month. What progress have you learned? Like, oh, it's like, no, there's a fitness competition in 5 years and I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
When you rephrase it and you look further out and you start future casting your life, I think that's how people are going to find their purpose. Don't look for the small fish in the shallow pond, right? You really have to swim big, hit big, right? Don't be afraid to have big, hairy, audacious goals. So that we call them bad goals.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to swing for it. And that's how you find your purpose, because when I actually think that's a lie, I need to rephrase that. I think that's a way that you cultivate your purpose. And the reason I say that is I don't think people know what their purpose is. I think you're meant to fall. You're meant to fall short. You're meant to open wrong doors. You're meant to go down wrong paths. Like when you were younger, people said, will you be married with 2 kids? That's not your purpose. Your purpose in your head at that time is different than what you think today.
And that was and that's so, you say paths. There's 2 paths, right? There's the right path and the wrong path. Yeah, you're going to go on the wrong path. You want to come back to the right path. And it's so important. You're talking about long-term goals, what makes you happy. When I think of the future now, I'm happy because I'm in a good place. And every person should want that. You should motivate yourself. If you're looking next week, next year, you should always have something that it's going to fill your cup. And that will shine through you, and through that action, it's going to help others. If we're just all robots going to work from 9 to 5, coming home, hide inside the house, what kind of life is that? What kind of life is that? It's when I think of the future, I think of walking my girls down the aisle. I think about plans for Christine and I when we retire. What are we going to do? What's our next path in life? And I really wish that everyone can experience that, even people I don't like. Because let's be honest, there's people we are not going to like, or there's people we're not going to agree with. The past is and that's one thing too I'm going to mention is let the past be the past. There is not one thing you can do to change it. You can learn from it. Don't hold grudges. I've seen people hold grudges, and that is going to bring you to an end quick. That's going to be, first of all, it's going to hold you hostage until you break those handcuffs, and just set that free, and just move forward with whatever makes you happy and whatever your purpose is. And don't let people say you cannot do that. We need to get back to that mindset where if we can put our minds to it, there is nothing we cannot do. There is nothing we can't overcome. If you put your heart into it, people that you love, if you let them inside your space, which everyone needs their space, but you need to let people inside that space so they can help you along the way. So it's with even the relationship we're developing, like you say, we'll get together as families. We're letting our wives talk, our girls play. We're talking more as men. And that's something that I'm learning from you. You're learning from me. And that's motivating.
It's beautiful.
Right? It's beautiful. Let's call it what it is.
Yes,
it's a beautiful thing.
I love it.
And it's like, it's something that's lost. It's lost within, you said at the start of it, which hit me so hard. That's not the core of the family anymore. I got it in my own personal family where there's relationships that are broken over silly things, and people are holding on to things that they can't change. It's already done. But what can change is, restoring relationships with family members. And I truly believe that will come, that's going to come from people I know within my personal family. So that's why I'm just saying that right now, that's something that Christine and I are working on together to try to restore broken relationships, and just trying to make family whole again, man. Because that's what it's about. It's about your family. At the end of the day, our pastor at the church said it. First of all, she said, if you're spending more time at the church than you are with your family, something's wrong. Mm. And for a pastor to say that, what is that telling you? That's a truthful pastor. And I hold that stuff dear to me. And I know you do as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of statements that we're both making here that sound grandiose and sound like we know what the hell we're talking about. And I just need to make it very clear. I'm still figuring it out day to day.
So am I.
And there's statements here that I struggle with. And I want to pose the question to you. And I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of a rant here, but then I'm going to ask you a direct question. There's a lot of stuff here about in society that has worked for me in modern society about setting boundaries, about being truthful, about calling bullshit, mm-hmm. hurting people's feelings intentionally in hopes that you kind of open up a reality for them and be like, listen, this is what it is. This is me looking from the outside in. Like, I'm giving you the real deal. But then there's the other ones, or the other kind of messaging that don't hold grudges, so there's somewhat conflicting information, right? There's almost like these roads they're side by side, and you're kind of in the middle of it, and you cross one, sometimes you cross another, because again, how do you maintain a healthy boundary with somebody, but you've set a firm one of like, with a family member, I don't like how you talk politics to me. I don't like how you talk down on my faith. I don't like how you treat your wife and you're fucking cheating on her and fucking around on her all the time. But at the same time, how do you cultivate family by not holding grudges? And so my question to you is, if posed with that information and kind of maybe thinking of like a worst case scenario in your head of, a hodgepodge or really dysfunctional family, if somebody's listening and their friendship circle's fucked, their marriage is fucked, their family's fucked, they have stepkids and kids and all, like what would be one or two things in your head? And I'm pretty sure I know what you're gonna say. But what would be one or two things in your head that you'd be like, what would be a starting point or a suggestion you would give yourself if you were put in that situation?
So first of all, and it's hard, you have to humble yourself. You have to get the courage to say what you need to say to them face to face. Then after that is released from you, it is on them. It is done. It is off your shoulders. And you need to be bold. People, I tell my kids, I give you trouble because not to be mean, it's because I love you, man. I love you. So when you humble yourself, when you get to the point where you just need to kind of release what's holding what just say what's in your heart, man. Like say what's in your heart. I don't know what's in your heart. People don't know what's in my heart, but you know what's in your heart. Just say what's in your heart and just say it as nicely as you can. If that makes any sense. And just the weight that'll be released from you. I'm just saying this out of personal experience. I'm not telling people, giving them advice. I'm telling you, because you asked the question, you just gotta say what's on your heart. And it's not going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to, once you say it, it's gone. You got to do that daily. We got to do things daily. You got to say, okay, I'm going to forgive this person daily. It is gone. Over time, it will be gone. It's not an easy road. Being the good person is not easy. It's easy to follow pursuit, follow the pack, be in this new fad. I'm just going to, what's the terminology? People say, lay low because you won't go noticed. Just be honest, man, and just say what's on your heart. What's on your heart, that's what's on your heart. It's not my opinion. It's not me giving you advice. It's telling you what's on my heart. Like when you were just giving examples about talking about a friend cheating on your wife, this and this and that. Right now, I would take that. I would want somebody to say that to me when I'm doing something stupid. Just say it to me. And the people I know that are close to me and truly know me will say it to me. So that's my advice. Your heart is your mind. Let your heart do the talking. Your mind only dilutes what your heart is thinking. Don't let it sit in your mind. Don't let it, people say strategize. It's okay to strategize, to think it out, but how long do you need to strategize something? When it's on your heart, at the end of the day, it's on your heart. You can't change that. Don't change what's on your heart. That's my advice.
When I think of reactions too, and I think of not only a person humbling themselves and being willing to either be torn down or lose a relationship or, get metaphorically burnt to the ground, by really saying what needs to be said. And then also on the flip side, somebody receiving that, being basically told, trying to be held accountable by people you may look up to the most. When I think of reactions on both sides of those, I think of two scenarios when we talked about originally. If your house is in order, meaning you're in integrity with yourself, your house is good. And what I mean by that is simple things like take care of the shit that you have. When I see people and their cars are a mess and their garage, you can't even see the garage floor. And I was that at 22 years old. I was in a new relationship. I was in a brand new home. I was trying to keep up with the Joneses and had two brand new vehicles in the driveway with car payments. I did not have my house in order. And maybe people will argue you shouldn't have it in order at 22. I kind of disagree with that. I think the sooner you can get your life in order, the better you'll be. You only build on good. And my favorite athlete in the world, Tom Brady, has this famous quote where he says, once you learn the right way, you can't unlearn the right way. Once you learn how to be a fucking adult and take care of yourself, you can't unlearn it. You might slip and you might not do it for a month, or you might get off of a nutrition plan or a fitness plan, or you may lose a bit of communication, but you still know what you should be fucking doing.
And it is so okay to have nice things. It's okay to keep your house tidy. I'm the biggest person. People come to my house with their shoes on. I'm the biggest. Ask my wife how mad I get when people take your shoes off when you come in the house. I'm so respectful. I'll take my shoes off. Keep your shoes on, Trevor. Like, nope, I'll take them off. If you have nice things, respect the things. It doesn't matter what other people think, and people need to quit worrying about that. Trevor goes to the gym just because, well, why? You're married. My brother-in-law bugs me all the time. Why are you working out so much? You're married. You got kids.
Why do you want to live long?
Because it makes me feel good. That's the only reason, right? And that's it. Makes me feel good. And no, like you said, it's just don't try to keep up with the Joneses. But if it's okay to have nice things, it's okay to want to take care of them. You're not doing anything wrong by that. So where were we going? We were talking about forgiveness, about family members. And
yes. I'm talking about reactions where,
Reactions, yes,
people
reactions.
having their house in order. I see their reaction of being exactly that. You're able to humble yourself when you have your shit together.
Hmm.
You're not able to humble yourself when everything is in disarray. And it's almost like you're skipping the line. And there's actually a business training course I took where they talk about something called sequencing, where you can't approach the $1 million investor before you build a business plan. You can't come up with a concept for a business and then think that you're going to open up a store the next week. There's something called sequencing, and if anybody can take anything from this, when I'm talking about reactions, I think of people who think emotionally. I look at that as that person's not rooted in themselves
Hmm.
in whatever way, shape, or form that may be. I may not know the nuance of the discussion, but whatever that discussion is, if I see people have an outburst, let's use politics as a great example. When I see somebody say, make America great again, and somebody starts screaming in a crowd, I look at that person, I say, they don't really know who they want to vote for.
No.
They don't know who's running. They don't know what their messaging is. They don't know nothing. They don't even know where their own political ideologies align with their own values. There's a sequence to this. When I quoted Admiral McRaven, making your bed first, truly, I think that is the first sequence. If you are in a lost spot, spiraling out of control, recently divorced, lost your job, not knowing what to do, gained 100 pounds, whatever negative connotation that you want to associate with your life right now or victim mentality you may have, start small, but stick with it. You may sit there and say, why am I doing this? There's no purpose. Nobody sees this. I'm not getting acknowledged. What is the meaning of this? It's a positive move in the right direction, and it starts there. Truthfully, it does. The next step is very individual, but you have to get yourself, your home, your community, whatever in order. And it has to follow that sequence. You can't go from 0 to 100 and expect success, because then you're going to go back even further and be demotivated to even want to try anything else.
I love how you said it right at the start. You said a business plan. If you're going to approach an investor, you need to approach them with, this is what, potentially what I want, but you got to have the solution. I go to so many meetings where people are given ideas just to be heard. So what's your solution?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a problem in your life, sit down, look at the problem, take a piece of paper, write out a solution. It's simple as that. Come up with your life business plan. I love it. Like, there is sequence. There's consequences to everything you do. There's consequences to plans that you implement or don't implement. Consequences is it's not going to happen. You can sit there and talk about it. It's not going to happen. You can sit there and come up with the business plan, have a solution, show the beginning to the end. It's going to happen. I've never seen a person that I've known that's motivated. They haven't succeeded in what they wanted to implement or what their ideas were. Sure, sometimes they don't always work out as accordingly, but then you make adjustments. You adjust your business plan a bit. But
Mm-hmm.
I love how everything, it kind of intertwines with one another. Like you're saying, business plans, life, cleaning up your house. It all starts with something and it ends with something. And it's all on you to come up with that solution.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you make your bed, but you got to lie in it too.
Yeah.
You lie in it at the end of the night.
It's really good. And most people know me. I'm a big fan of quotes. So I'm going to drop another one on you. So Chris Williamson has this one, and he was talking about fitness, but really it applies to everything. And he says, the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, and I found myself doing this too when I think of fitness, and a great one for me and that I've struggled with. And I'm actually starting a new fitness challenge here right away with a phenomenal dude. He's the epitome of masculinity, and I admire him so much. His name's Cam McDougall. He's incredible. And I always blamed my inability to develop a routine because of my shift work.
Yeah.
And then me and you started commuting back and forth to work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this motherfucker's doing it. He's got a busier life than me, more kids than me. So in my head, all those false stories that I told myself that I'm like, well, I can't do this, can't do that. You broke those barriers for me. So I'm like, damn it, fucking Trevor's going to hold me accountable now. This sucks. But it was one of those things where when you fully embrace and take accountability and you're like, yeah, my work schedule is inconsistent. So do you know what my fitness routine is going to look like? It's going to be inconsistent.
Yeah.
But anything is better than nothing. Right. And it's one of those things that when you embrace the reality, and I have options.
Yeah.
I can quit my job and work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then wake up every morning at 3, 4, like you, work out, have the standard job, make less money, make more money, whatever it may be. I can reinvent that aspect.
Yeah.
Or if I don't want to implode my status quo, I have to adapt. I have to adjust. Maybe there, this week I get called in last minute overtime and I miss a gym workout, or okay, well, I come home and do it at 9 o'clock at night. Is it smart? No. Would people advise it? No. Does it follow Tony Robbins' successful plan of how to get a six pack? No, but it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing.
And that's the mantra I've had to change in my mind, that Cam has really helped me, because the same thing, the fitness challenge starts, and then 2 days later, it starts on Tuesday and I leave for the hike on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I literally messaged him and I'm like, well, how am I supposed to participate in this? He's like, why wouldn't you participate in this? And I'm like, well, I can't complete the challenge. He's like, why can't you? And you look at they're not complex.
No.
One of them is like, journal for 5 minutes about some struggles you had the day before. Just get it on paper, a little paragraph. What were some things? Fight with your wife. You took a work call that wasn't pleasant. You had a difficult conversation with family. You stubbed your toe, whatever it may be, right? Something simple, easy. Another one is 20 push-ups. Okay, simple, easy. Do it at a gas station. I've done it at gas stations. You can actually see it on my Instagram channel. I've done it at a gas station, and a guy on a motorbike pulled up and started revving. He's like, that's the coolest thing I've seen in forever. I wasn't intending to impact him, but you just do. And this goes back again to the beginning of this podcast, is your actions speak so much more than your words. If I told you, hey, let's do 20 push-ups, it's more powerful to watch me do them than for me to tell you to do them.
We made it fun. We were in a remote BC, no gym around. So my daughters and I, we said, okay, let's do 200 push-ups a day and 100 V snaps. You can Google what V snaps are. My daughters beat me at the V snaps, but I would also get up and I would run 10K on the beach. I adapted to the environment I was in, right? Because it made me feel good. Yeah. It made me feel good. And people need to adapt to shift work, adapt to certain situations in your life, adapt to them, but have a solution. Is it having a personal talk with them, venting your feelings, having a family meeting, an intervention, whatever you want to call it? Have a solution. And there will be no problem that cannot be solved if you have a solution. Is the solution, maybe this person is not my friend. Maybe we're not meant to be friends. You've kind of laid out the solution for the person. They don't want to be receptive. You've done your part. So that goes back to, we're talking about family, difficult situations, families being reunited. Solutions, man. We need to clean up your house, have a plan of action. I love it. I'm gonna use this one. Your life business plan. What is your life business plan? Mm-hmm. It's gonna change, but change it as you go.
Yeah, those are living documents. Anybody who's ever owned a successful business that has written out a business plan,
100%,
they're living documents. Yeah. And I love the idea of a business plan, because when I wrote my very first one out, it was very copy and paste off of Google.
Yeah.
I basically paid, I think it was like $40 for like a generic one. And I filled in the blanks of my company. And then, there was a spreadsheet of income and all that stuff. And there's not much in a business plan that you can't apply to your life. And my favorite one is when you evaluate your competition, when you do what are called market gaps, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at your market gaps, if you're trying to open up a gym and you're competing with LA Fitness, Good Life, and all that stuff, the market gap's pretty small.
Yeah.
Right. And what I mean by that is the gap you're trying to fill is not very big.
Yeah.
You're not solving a problem that has high potential. Are you going to succeed? Potentially, maybe you get unique with your branding or unique with your approach, or, maybe you're a gym that allows steroids, and that's a friend. You're going to get those guys, right? Yeah. Like, whatever. Right. Yeah. I'm using that, I say that, tongue in cheek, but then there's big market gaps, right? You look at Amazon.
Yeah.
Started off as a book selling store. It was never supposed to be what it was supposed to be. It's never supposed to be what it currently is.
Online book.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how they started.
Yeah.
They sold used books. Yeah. And there was a plenty. They seen a gap in a market for literacy and all these books, piling up in different places. But then they adapt. They're like, well, if this works for books, why wouldn't it work for anything else?
Yeah.
And then you adapt. Yeah. So again, applying a business plan strategy to your life or to your marriage or to anything really, or to your current business. Maybe you don't have a business plan. You're like, what the hell is that? And Google it.
Yeah.
And maybe you do drop shipping out of your basement, or you sell, plaques on Etsy. A business plan is very, very simple. You have to start with branding, right? What are you? What is your business, right? So let's apply that to our lives. Honey, what is our marriage? Like, what do you see in our marriage? What is this? And then you just work your way down, right? So you have, your income, same thing. And income, whatever problem you're going to apply this strategy to, if there's no money involved, income could just mean what you're taking in versus what you're putting out, right? So your revenue and then your expenditures, right? So what am I expending to receive? A lot of times in a successful business, you want to expend less and receive more. But I would argue that in most cases, a bare minimum should be you want to receive what you expend. You get in what you put out. That's, that's what you want at a bare minimum. Now, it's never going to be symbiotic. There are going to be times that you make a mistake. You make a bad investment, a bad business choice, a bad marriage decision. Maybe you go on that one bachelor party and you fuck up and there's a picture and whatever. And, whatever it may be, there's going to be these ebbs and flows in anything.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be a living document. You can't just, you might take this and be like, Christine, we're writing a marriage business plan. It's going to be amazing. Alfred had this grandiose idea. In 3 months, you're going to show it to me and be like, perfect. In 3 years, that what you wrote is not applicable. Not even close. It has to adapt and change with you. It's a living document. And I think that is a recipe for success for anything, is when you constantly critique any change you make in your life. So going back again, when we talk about starting small, well, you make your bed. How can you make your bed better? And, our mutual coworker, Craig, really a good example in the military, you can never make it good enough. You're always going to get hounded on. You could press your corners, you can iron your sheets, you can have it absolutely pristine. You're going to get reamed on. That's not meant to tell you don't know what you're doing. It's meant to make you better. It's meant to make you revisit an almost perfect task you've accomplished and identify, how can I get a little bit better, right? Super important.
So we're gonna do this next time our families get together. We did this with another couple friend of ours, and he's a psychologist, so he's got some amazing ideas, little games. But we all sat down. He had a template of what is your to-do list, your bucket list. Say one thing in your life, if you could reverse time, what would it be? Then it gets into more depth questions. Tell Alfred something you admire about him. Tell the person sitting directly across from you, while you look them in the eye, how you appreciate them. Tell them their flaws. And we went through this, and our girls were involved too. And the men, there was tears at the end of it, but tears of joy because of how close everybody felt. They felt bonded at it. And we talk about business plans. We talk about documentations. We talk about getting together as friends, as couples, families. Simple little challenges like that. They're not difficult. They're not over mind stimulating. They're simple, to the point, and that's something we're going to do. We're going to do that next time we get together. I'm going to get the template he used, and maybe we should record it, because I bet you'll see Alfred crying for the first time on tape. You get really personal. There's some personal.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that you probably have deep embedded in your heart that you haven't said out loud. And it's just out of the blue. We were sitting around and fire talking. He's like, we're gonna do this challenge, this game. And that's something that maybe we can talk about next time.
I love all of this stuff. And like these types of conversations, this sort of quality rooted, embedded, positive conversation, for me, it's relatively new for me. It truly is, because it was not that long ago that I was not an enjoyable person to be around, truthfully. And again, I'll go back to that word stoic, because I was not. I was a short fuse that was always lit. I was always ready to snap. I was always ready to go off, right? And there was times that I would go durations where I didn't, where like life kind of seemed to be turning the corner, and I would almost create conflict. I remember a few vivid moments in my head where I disagreed with things that I actually agreed with, just to kind of create a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of friction. I needed it. I craved it, because it was the only dopamine kick I had in my life. Because everything else in my life, because again, I didn't have everything in order, was kind of like dull. It wasn't invigorating. It didn't make me excited. When you talk about family is important to me now, I agree with you. When I come home, I'm excited. I want to talk to Sophie about her day. I want to talk to Courtney about her new job. Back then, I was going home like, what am I going home to?
Yeah.
It's monotonous. It's kind of, or am I going home to a bigger battle? Some men and some women go to work to get a fucking break.
I love how honest you're being with that, man. You said, what am I going home to? Those are questions not just men, women ask that too.
100%.
Those are honest from your heart, your opinions. Like that goes through people's head. And let's all be honest. We all think that but the grass isn't greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. So the more conversations we have, like you said, people need to quit making excuses and make the time, because everyone has busy lives. But at the end of the day, when you do things like this, it fills your cup. unless you're really introverted and you don't want to do nothing.
But even if you don't want to do nothing, you can still be productive and positive in your own. It's much more difficult. Now, I can't envision it in my head because I'm certainly not an introvert. I'm pretty extroverted, to be
Yeah.
quite honest.
Yeah.
But where I wanted to go with that real quick is, again, giving people little tidbits. And I actually said this on another episode, is like everything. The first time you want to start a fitness plan from start to finish, eat better, work out better, start a regimen. If you want to build a business plan for your business, your marriage, if you want to get married, everything, when you start it for the first time, it takes a lot of work. There's this hump you have to get over, that when I talk about that, you get what you put in. It's going to be very opposite. You have to put in an insane amount of work. You have to put in an insane amount of intention. You really have to be honest with yourself. Is this what I want to do? And you're going to get fuck all back.
Yeah.
The first 3 weeks you go to the gym, you're going to have sore muscles and a tired body.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to have. You're not going to have anything else. And, that's it. And smelly clothes if you don't fucking wash. Like, you're not going to have that return on investment. And it's the same thing. So with almost anything. So what I would suggest to people is, if you find yourself doom scrolling, if you find yourself, social media and technology is brutal right now, I'll tell you, go on all the liked pages you've ever liked, and anything that you don't even have a remote interest in, unfollow, unlike. Clean up the content that you consume on a daily. I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't go on your phone for 7 days. I'm not a fucking idiot. We're in 2024. You're going to go on your phone every single day. If you want to start looking at the Chris Williamsons of the world, or positive podcasts, or you want to start following Jesus and learning about the Bible, or you want to learn about fitness, you know what you need to do? You need to unfollow that page that shows cats and dresses. Unfollow that fucking page and block it. And it's not hard, but it takes intention to go through your phone and subtract. It's such a weird psychological fuck around in your head, because you feel like you're taking steps backwards, or what are you doing? Or you're not really doing anything productive. Trust me, when you start doom scrolling and you started off looking how to fix your railing on your deck, and by the end of it, you're watching cats and dresses, yeah, you're probably not doing much productive fucking shit anyway. So if there's pages that you liked, people that you're no longer friends with, an ex-girlfriend, just eliminate, just move away and move on. And I'm going to butcher it. And again, another quote. It was a girl asking a gentleman, what was the best advice you've ever received? And he said, it's much better to avoid the devil than resist him, even if you think you have the mental fortitude to resist him. I'll give you an example. If you're trying to eat cleaner and your partner or your buddy gets a box of donuts, and you're like, I won't eat a donut. Whatever, do whatever you want. Walk the fuck away. Just avoid it. Just don't even give yourself that opportunity to have a lapse in judgment. Just avoid it completely. Don't resist, and don't think that you're going to rely always on your ability to say no, when you know that, for instance, if you're married, well, I know that I'm not going to cheat on my wife, so I'm just going to go to a club anyway. I have a wedding ring. I'm not going to cheat. Don't go to the fucking club.
Yeah.
Just don't fucking go. It's that simple. And
we're human beings. We're human beings. We're tempted.
So again, easy, simple. Go on whatever, your computer, your content, your phone, your iPad, your work, your bookmarks, and your shit. Whatever is not currently serving you, clean it, efficient. I think you said it earlier. You want to strategize. Well, just make it clean and streamline.
You said,
and start from a foundation of a strong base, and then go.
You said the magic word, and I don't even know if you realize you said it. You intentionally. You use the word intentionally. I love it. As soon as you said it, intentionally do it. Intentionally unfollow those pages. Intentionally tell your neighbor you appreciate what he did for you, for when he shoveled your sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Intentionally make that phone call, send that text message to your friend. Hey, give me a call later. Just wanted to chit chat. Intentionally do what your heart's telling you to do. I love it. I want to end with that, Alfred. I want to use that word intentionally. As soon as you said it, man.
Yeah.
Boom, that stuck in my head. I was letting you finish. I'm like, when you intentionally do something, it's because you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you want to go do, you want to clean up your deck, you want to do this and that, but you got these distractions, social media, that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Like intentionally do what you're supposed to do for that in that moment, that time. Intentionally spend time with your wife, your kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new magic word today is intentionally.
I love it.
I love it too, man.
I got to give a shout out to my boy Mike Prince. He's a guy that speaks with that about intention and doing everything. So I got to give a shout out to him because yeah, he's an absolute beauty, and he's the one that really taught me how to embrace that. Is if you're gonna do something, do it with intention.
Take small words like that,
yeah.
and like you said, quotes,
Yeah.
keywords like that. Keep them close. Don't make it complicated. We complicate things too much.
Yeah, no, we're gonna wrap this one up. I can promise this won't be the last one. These are such positive conversations, and yeah, if only we had a mic on every time we had conversations at the dinner table.
We'll get our wives involved sometimes because I'm telling you guys, before we recorded this, there was really good conversation ended up with my wife praying for Alfred's safety and peace while he was gone. And she truly means that from her heart. I know my wife. When she prays like that, that's from her heart.
Yeah.
That's from her. She doesn't care. She doesn't care if you're a Christian or not. She's going to pray for you.
Yeah. And I love it, right? Because how can that not impact you? And we talk about intention and we talk about genuine. And
she's doing it because she's genuine.
These lost words, truthfully, I think they've lost their meaning, right? They've lost their impact because they've been diluted. And I love it. Bring back that old vocabulary, right? Because it's impactful when somebody comes from a position of their like truthfulness and intention and gratitude and all these impactful words that it needs to be authentic, and it truly is, which is awesome. I think I want to have your wife on here strictly to give her must read list, because she's probably got the best must read book list. If you want to change your life and you want to go down a path of growth and learning, man, oh man, every single time I meet her, I'm like, oh, remember that book you mentioned 3 dinners ago? She's like, oh yeah, I got 7 more for you.
She's a book of knowledge. That woman,
yeah, I love it.
She reads and she loves it, and it soaks into her mind, right? And so I'm just trying to keep up with her. So I just try to keep up with her, but it's a beautiful thing.
I love it.
It's a beautiful thing. We can all learn from our wives. We can learn from one another. We can learn from our children. So be an open book.
I love it, dude. Yeah, no, I want to give you the open floor if you want to leave anybody with anything, or if you want to give a thanks to anybody, whatever you want.
I just want to give thanks to you, man.
Appreciate it.
I just want to give thanks to you for having these. You got the setup here. You got the equipment, your own investment. It's because something that you love to do it, and I love it too. And the more people know about things like this, I encourage Alfred, keep recording, start posting this stuff, man. I know people that have been writing books, and I'm like, well, just get it done, man. Like you know what you want to write about, write it, get it out there. Get some feedback, good feedback, negative feedback. It's all good. So I encourage you. I want you to post everything, get some feedback. But I just want to thank you. I want to thank my wife. I want to thank so many people. But thanks for having me on tonight, man.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Yeah. So if you guys got any further comments or feedback, please let us know on all the socials. Appreciate you listening to the Unmodern Podcast. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Unmodern Podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, like and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Unmodern Podcast. Do you have suggestions for future guests, or if you're interested in being a guest yourself, please visit unmodernpodcast.com. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next episode.